Spaghetti carbonara is one of the most favorite pasta dishes, and I'm sure you agree that if it is done right, it is an absolute phenomenal dish. But at the moment, I try to lose some weight, but I don't want to miss out on my carbonara, so I challenged myself to make a carbonara that's different, a carbonara that is carb-free. And to my surprise, it was actually easier to make than with spaghetti. But was it better? I guess we find out when we taste it. I know it's a big ask to challenge a classic like spaghetti carbonara, but I do feel I have the credentials because I owned, worked in and managed some of Europe's best restaurant kitchens, and to have a true comparison, I needed to make a benchmark carbonara. For that, I cooked my special spaghetti carbonara, which is incredibly simple and a success every time. And you should try that too. I'll place the recipe in the link below. And off we go. For the traditional carbonara, you have to use guanciale, which is a salted fermented pork cheek. For the traditional carbonara, you have to use guanciale, which is a salted fermented pork cheek. And it is so special as its fat literally melts just by touching it. I find that most chefs cut their guanciale too chunky and then end up being unpleasantly chewy to eat. So I cut it into really fine strips, and through that I get it crunchy all the way through, and it's much more pleasant to eat. To do that, I cook it with the skin and some peeled and crushed garlic on a medium-low heat. Now this allows me to render out all the fat, as it is the fat that will do the magic later on in that dish. So once it's cooked, I remove the skin and I remove the garlic, which has given it an amazing garlic note. Then I strain it off and set the crispy bacon and the fat aside separately. Now next, the pasta, and that is another secret. You need to know that spaghetti are not just spaghetti, so to make a perfect pasta dish, I use spaghetti that have a really rough surface. That's important because rough pasta has the better ability to absorb the sauce. In the case of carbonara, create a silken, creamy texture. You don't end up with the situations where noodles sit in a sauce. I mean, think about the bread roll to mop up your gravy, and that's what the pasta has to do in a pasta dish. And that is also the secret why Italian cooks always cook the pasta al dente, so it can soak up a lot of the sauce and through that soak a lot of flavor into the pasta. Now I place my pasta into plenty of salted boiling hot water, and that's also important, but I'll teach you a lot more about that in my online courses. And while the pasta is cooking, we start our sauce. So I took a bowl, I placed it over hot water bath, I added my guanciale fat. I added some pasta water and I stirred it all together. And then I seasoned it with lots of black pepper. And there's a bit of a story to that, and I will tell you that in a second, but the pepper also cuts really nice through that rich, fatty sauce. Then I add some pecorino, some parmesan, some lemon juice. Yes, I know that's not traditional, but a little acid actually works a miracle in that fatty, rich sauce. And it will stimulate your sour flavor receptors on your tongue and make this dish much more balanced and much more complete. So next, I emulsify it all, and to get it really creamy, I blend it with a stick blender like that. Then I whisk in the egg yolks and I add some salt and I blend it again, and then I turn off the heat because I don't want to overheat the eggs or don't want to overheat the cheese, where the sauce then will break and the fat will separate from the other ingredients. So it's a sort of a cheesy butter sauce, but it's just so much better because we made it with bacon fat. And don't worry if it's a little bit too liquid. Remember, our al dente pasta will absorb all of that extra moisture. And then I strain my al dente pasta, I add the pasta to the hot sauce, and I mix and stir. Now for this step, you have to be very careful, because if your pasta absorbs too much water from the sauce, it still can break as it runs out of water. And if that happens, your carbonara or the sauce will break and it becomes very greasy. So watch it and keep adding pasta water if needed so that the sauce stays creamy all the time and does not separate. So then I increase the heat underneath and I stir continuously, as the warming egg yolks will make my sauce really creamy, silken, a bit like a custard. But don't overdo it, because this is a crucial step. You could end up with scrambled eggs. And when it's perfect, I turn off the heat. I add half of my crispy bacon from before, and I also like to make my carbonara a little bit healthier, so add some chive to add some refreshing garlicky onion notes. Okay, let's serve it. That was easy, and the secret is obviously ordering the sauce, as you have seen. I wish you could be here and taste it with me, but I'm just gonna eat it up on my own before I show you my carb-free carbonara, and I'm sure it will cause quite a bit of controversy, but that's not the only controversy this dish has. I mean, there's so many stories. Does it come from Lazio or Rome itself? Or is it from a Sardinian town called Carbonara and was brought by a native chef from there to Rome? Some people even think it has Swiss roots. Other stories go it was the preferred meal of the secret meetings of the Carboni Society. Others say it was the favorite pasta of the coal workers from the Apennine Mountains, where the black pepper sprinkled over this dish represents coal fragments. And then, of course, was it the Roman invention of the post-war years, where American soldiers traded bacon and dried eggs on the Roman black market called Mercato Carbonaro, and it became a favorite in the cafes around the market. I mean, I have my own theory, and that is actually that it is just a bacon, cheese, egg sandwich where the bread roast got replaced with pasta. And that's the attitude I'm going to bring into the next dish. I'm sure we're going to get cursed by loads of carbonara purists. And to do my dish, I started off with doing the same as I did before. When I cut my bacon into fine strips, I peeled and crushed some garlic. I placed it into a pan and rendered the fat out on a medium-low heat to get the bacon really crispy. But yes, I added one more thing to keep it a little bit in the spirit of my bacon, cheese and egg roll, and to make it taste a little bit better, so I added some smoked pancetta, better known as speck, to get some really nice smoky flavors in it, and I think that would go really nice with the coal miner spirit too. Now when it was all done, I removed the crispy bacon and I strained off the fat. What I did next was to add some cream to the pan and cook it down until it was a nice creamy sauce before I strain it off and season it with salt and pepper. Next, my pasta, or should I say my pasta replacement. And yes, I thought the closest thing that assembles anything like pasta and would be completely carb-free could be something like if I partially freeze and slice some calamari tubes and thin as spaghetti. That could work. And the partial freezing helped enormously to make the slicing process so much easier. And from there on it was really simple. I mean, the pan goes on, the rendered pork fat goes in, then the heat goes in, and then I add my calamari pasta and reduce the heat and just let it firm up a little. I don't want to get it too hard, so only half cooked. And then I added the cream and I brought it to simmer before I added the egg yolks. And like before, I thickened the sauce a bit like a custard, so it's perfectly creamy. Then I added some chives to keep it really healthy again and into a plate. And because the cheese, I find, is much better when you grate it over the dish, and so is it with the bacon. And then I just added an extra egg yolk to make it even nicer. And here is my carb-free carbonara. And if you do like it a bit more rustic and a bit more smoky, sprinkle over a pinch of smoked paprika, just to break a few more carbonara rules. But I think the name is actually pretty good too. I mean, listen to it. Calamari carbonara, spaghetti carbonara. So let's go off and taste it and see if it is good or possibly even better than the original. Okay, so now it's time to taste our two carbonaras. So I'm gonna do the Italian thing, put a bit of pepper away.
Good thing I'm hungry today.
So if you could try that, that's a spaghetti carbonara, and then the second one is a carbonara too, but it is
No, no spaghetti. Can't see the spaghetti.
Okay, can we just taste it now. So
I'm just showing that I have no idea what he's doing. Anyway, so spaghetti carbonara, I like this. Which I'm going to now try in the utmost elegance.
So that's really sort of the comparison to this one. So let's see if that one is as good as that.
Quite cheesy,
Cheesy one.
which I like.
Carbonara, isn't it?
Oh, well, yeah. It's nice and cheesy. Spaghetti's al dente. What do you expect from a carbonara?
Right.
Yep, that's enjoyable. Just a very well-made carbonara, honey.
Thank you.
Yeah, like you always manage to do.
Okay, so the next one is, I tried to cook a healthier version. I tried to cook
With more bacon.
with more bacon.
Okay.
A carb-free version. So you want to try that, and that's sort of a comparison, and then you let me know, is it as good as this one or not?
There's no pasta in this one.
no pasta in this one.
Okay, if you like to have a look, there's an egg in the middle, bacon, and something underneath the bacon, and I don't know what it is. Am I going to get a scare?
You need to stir it all together. and then
Okay. Ooh, there's legs in here. It's calamari.
I'm supposed to recognize that straight away.
Well, I'm not stupid, so I know what calamari looks like. But you're still calling this spaghetti carbonara?
Yeah, it's a carb-free
Oh.
weight loss spaghetti carbonara because you don't have the carbs, you know. What do you think of it?
Good alternative.
Yeah, isn't it? It's nice.
You've got the same, spaghetti is al dente, so you've got the al dente effect with the calamari.
Yeah.
Because calamari is
That
quite
was
tough,
the
but
idea,
you've
yeah.
softened it enough so that it's not too chewy.
Yeah.
The croutons, sorry, the bacon, it's just a little bit too much for me, because I don't like salt. A bit too much salt for me, but otherwise it's surprisingly similar, but different.
Okay. So which one would you prefer?
Personally, I prefer that because I like pasta.
Okay.
But I would still eat that if
Yeah.
I didn't like pasta. I love
Well, see,
pasta. But otherwise, this could be a good alternative. But slightly less with the bacon, because I think, but as I said, I'm not big on salt, and you're big on salt.
Right.
But the actual calamari is it's interesting because it's nice and cheesy like that one. And I'm going back for more.
So at the moment I prefer that one because with that one I'm hopefully going to lose some weight.
Well, weight loss program. This one.
All right.
I'm not on the weight loss program, so I would go that one. Yeah, they're both good.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Was this better than the other, or is this just like this is an alternative?
I didn't alternative. That's it.
It's an alternative, yeah. So it's a good alternative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that would go really nice with my floating island. So check out that video, and I hope you enjoyed that video. And I'll see you next time.
See ya.